Hi everyone, it's Nikki Jameson here, digital artist, and today I'm going to create a background or show you how to create a background in Corel Painter. So if you don't know what backgrounds are, and I'm sure you do, backgrounds are things that you can use for many different uses. You can place a background or import a background into your painting, and instead of starting on a blank, let me just close some of these here. Instead of starting on a blank white canvas, you can add a background uh, of any kind really, and it gives you somewhere to start with. You can also use backgrounds to turn your photos, if you are so inclined, into works of art. There is a process and a knack to make them look good. Like, you just don't want to place the actual photo on the background. You need to know how to blend and which brushes to use. But backgrounds are actually very popular. You can use a background to add texture, to add color, to add mood, and basically it has a lot of there are lots of ways that you can apply a background. So what I did for this particular this demo, this painting, this is going to be very much trial and error, because the key to making good backgrounds is to understand what you want to get out of the background, not necessarily what it's going to be used for, but what you want to get out of the background, and then if you're in Painter, what brushes to use. So typically I would use something like a brush to add the brush marks, and I'll show you how to pick up the colors, a brush to add the brush marks, and then a brush to blend. So this brush, I believe, is brushy, and it's laying down a paint stroke, like this blue paint stroke, which is actually in the background, which I'm kind of using there. It's laying down a paint stroke. It's at a fairly large size. Let me just bring it down a little bit. This is how it would be if it was a smaller size. And the reset is 90, which means it's going to actually impart paint onto the canvas. But let's step back a little bit. So what I did, as I said, I had my canvas here and do this. You can start from scratch and paint in like an abstract painting and then blend everything together. Or if you have access to backgrounds and pre-printed backgrounds, which you can get from places like Design Cuts and places where they sell textures, you can buy bundles of textures. You can start with a texture and adapt it to what you want. So in this case, I did a bit of both. I did some painting, and I actually imported a background by doing File, Place, because I have hundreds of textures and I love to use them to create backgrounds. I actually have backgrounds that I've purchased as well. So this is a background which was a little bit more defined than this, but you can see all the colors. Then what I did is that I brought in another texture here from one of my texture collections, and I set it so that it's not taking up the whole of the picture. And I actually did that by using the layer adjuster. So with the layer adjuster, ooh, I'm moving the wrong one there. I should be on this top one, I think. Actually, if I want to move this one, I would use the layer adjuster, and you can see it's moving the layer. But the one I want to move is the top one. So if I do that, I can actually move the layer, and if I click on the adjuster tools, I can also reduce how much this layer takes on this canvas. And because it's an independent layer, I can move it around, I can rotate it, I can do everything. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to rotate it. I think I'm just going to leave it for the sake of this demo, and then just click action to commit. And you see I still got my crosshairs here, and that's because I'm in the a layer adjuster tool, which selects the layer. So I'm going to press B on my keyboard and turn back to my brushes. So I have in effect three textures that I've imparted to make this background. And the first phase of what I will do is to actually paint. So I have chosen the oils bravura, and you can check my previous videos where I look at the oils bravura, and you can see which of these brushes you want to use. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you have a brush to paint and you have a brush to blend. I'm going to sample some color here so I can put this color here, and I'm actually just painting on this top layer. Sample here. So I'm really just freestyling this and what I want to do is actually have it sort of blend. I possibly didn't really need these other layers here, but you know, I never know what color I want to bring in. So let's say I want to put a little bit more of this yellow here. Maybe I even want to take another color from my color wheel and put that there. Now bear in mind, if you are creating a background to use for a photo, the background generally is going to be sort of receded. You don't really want the background to take over the picture, so you might want to consider maybe putting a less bright background on top. This is where I got to, so if I put another stroke here, you'll see this is where I was getting to. But at the end of the day, you want to have something that's a little bit more subtle and subdued, which if you're putting paint strokes in, that's not what you're going to get. And in fact, I want to change my papers here. Let's see if I can change my papers, because I can get a little bit more texture. Let's change it to one of these canvases, because then it will impart that canvas texture as well. So I've moved this on top. I'm going to move this other layer, previous layer, back up just to show you what I'm going to do for blending. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to one of my blenders, and I'm going to my you can find it in the oils bravura, and it's a favorite of mine, which is, I've actually marked it here. It's called the rough edge blender. I'm going to, so it will have a reset of 0 as it's a blender. Just going to be sure, I'm going to make it going to reset it, but I also want it to be a little bit bigger, because to blend it's a lot easier if you do it with a bigger brush. I've made, come on Corel Painter. Now you can either go to a top layer and you can blend that way. It's on reset, yeah. Or you can actually blend on the layer itself, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so the rough edge blender is going to basically give you a more, it's going to, if you want to keep the strokes in, which I kind of do at the moment, you can do that, but it's going to blend all this together. And in fact, this is probably better as a small brush. Let's just try that. Yeah, if it's as a smaller brush, it gives you this jagged edge. So you have to play with some of your brushes, because you can get different brush strokes depending on what size you've got, or what size you have your brush. I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm going to make sure I've got this on rotation, got my art pen on rotation, so I can turn my brush in either direction. Let's see if I can find another blender here. Let's try this render. I'll just do reset, because I know I've used that before. And I want it to blend, so I've got to make sure my reset is 0 and my opacity is 100%. And with the rag blender, I get a more a different brush mark here. Okay, and the nice thing about these blenders is that if you impart paint and you blend, and then impart paint and blend, you'll actually get some nice light effects, like light and dark. But the amount of texture you get will depend on the brush strokes and how much definition you want. So clearly our focal point is going to be around here. I want to try another blender. Let's try Messy Oil. So if you have a blender like Messy Oil, it's a wet brush. I'm not sure how this is not kind of the look I'm looking for right now, but it is another blender that we can use. but I want to see if I can find, oh man, grainy water. So I want to try, okay, so here's another type of blender, and it's actually called Just Add Water. It's found in the general blenders, and it actually comes with Corel Painter, which is nice because that way you don't have to buy brushes to, you know, get a particular look. And in my videos, I've tried to use brushes that come with Corel Painter rather than brushes that are sold or, you know, purchased or, you know, own bespoke brushes kind of thing, so that you can actually find and use those brushes. So you can see here, this particular blender, oh, okay. So actually that's not really what I wanted to do. You know what I've realized? I've realized that I've left it at a reset of 32%. So what it's doing is actually adding paint. Now I didn't really want it to do that. I wanted it to be 0, not add the paint, and I wanted it to blend the paint. But no matter. The beauty of having layers, if I had actually done that on the layer, I would be even happier, is that you can always kind of rescue something if you have it on an individual layer. So the way I could rescue this, because I didn't really want that much green, I've got the reset at 0. I'll probably use another brush for this, is that I would just keep blending. And what Just Add Water is it's a really nice blender blender. It is a very nice blender. You get this really nice smooth, you know, non-textury effect. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. See how smooth it is, but you can also see some of the texture coming through from the canvas, and if I increase the angle there, it might even get a little bit more. Okay, so I'm kind of filling my screen with this. Now, if you like that, that is a really nice one. I personally prefer a little bit of more of an edge to my backgrounds and textures. You can do that by placing more textures in your painting, or you can do that by, you know, going to a different brush perhaps and maybe adding, oops, let's turn it up, maybe adding a little bit more. Let's sample this, paint marks. So you can see that a little bit more. You can, this is a knife, it's great for adding some, you know, some thing a bit like thick paint. And then what you do is you go back to your blender, just add water, let's try that, and you can actually blend that in with Just Add Water again, making sure it's on a reset of 0, if that's what you want. Or you can just go to back to your oils bravura or the blenders, maybe go for the rough edge blender again. This is why it's a very good idea to know you may only need to use a handful, but if you don't know what those brushes do, then you're kind of stuck. Or you're not really stuck, you can experiment, but I like to kind of know, okay, which brushes will do this particular thing. So here I'm creating a little bit more toothy edge, and I'm using the rough edge blender, a reset of 0. If I increase the reset, I can add a little bit more color. I can even change my paper a little bit. Let's change that. I'm a bit tired of that one. Add a bit more definition. Turn the reset down to 0 again, and just blend this in. And what you can see here is that this is taking in, ooh, that angle's a little bit big. Let's just bring that down. It's taking in the paper grain. So I can continue to work on this area. You can add another layer. Okay, you can add another layer, and let's get on the other layer and blend that in. This is a layer I started earlier. Okay, and you can just keep adding paint and blending and adding paint and blending. It takes a while to find out which blenders work the best with which paper. So for example, in the oils general, you will find some nice brushes here as well. Also in the oils real wet, there are some really nice brushes there, as there are in the artist oils as well. So for example, you can explore the grainy blender. Let's just reset that. That's on that blend. Just going to make it a little bit bigger. So the grainy blender will attempt to pick up the grain of the paper. Let's reset it. And I'm not really liking what that one is doing. It's brushy, and I turn the reset down to 0. I can then blend that in. That's actually quite a nice, safe, stable one that's not going to give you too many surprises. But you know, this is all experimentation, so you can, you know, just play around, you know, just add paint, change the reset, make it really big, make the brush small, add your paint, pull in some grain, and then turn the reset down, make your brush a bit bigger. Ooh. And then blend. Okay, reset is 0. Yep. So after a while you get a knack for how it works, and then you can just build by adding to your layer stack, and then you can collapse everything and you'll have like a background. And then what I would typically do is to add some surface texture to this, paint a few more layers, play around with the light, and you know, add some more embellishments to it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this particular video. This is just a short intro to one way to create backgrounds, and I'm sure I'll be back with another example of creating a background using blending and paint. Take care. Hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye.